What's up, Bailey? Okay, move number one. You got to get everything on the same side, so you should add 10 in. You should add 10 in. You got 11n squared minus 4n plus 11 is 0. Now, you got to identify the value of A, the value of B, the value of C, and let's use the quadratic formula. So A is going to give you 11. B is a minus 4. And C's got to be 11. So now, x equals a negative b plus or minus the square root of Jesse. If you do not put b in parentheses, you're going to miss it. B squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So you should have x equals negative 4 plus or minus the square root of b. If it's not in parentheses, you're going to miss it. Negative 4 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So now you've got 4 plus or minus the square root. And what does this give you? Is this negative? Miranda, what's this under here on the first one? A negative, was it negative 288? 468. All divided by 11? Palmer, did you get this? 11 times 2, so it's going to be 22. Did you get this? If you can get to this point, you're in pretty good shape. Now from this point, you've got to recognize the square root of a negative is going to be imaginary. So let's take that negative out. So it's going to be 4 plus or minus, take the negative out, it's going to be imaginary, 468. All divided by 2 times 11 is 22. Now if you, on your calculator, hit 468, factor 468, does that give you 2 squared times 3 squared times 13? No, factor 468 and it should give you 2 squared, 3 squared times 13. So that means you're going to swap that out for the 468. So what you can pull out, you can pull a 2 out, you can pull a 3 out. So you're going to have 4 plus or minus. If you pull a 2 out and a 3 out and the imaginary out, the 13 stays in. And on bottom you got 22. So times your 2 and 3 together. So you got 4 plus or minus 6 imaginary times square root of 13 over 22. And now look at these numbers. 4, 6, and 22 are all even. So you can simplify this fraction. You can divide them all by 2. So your final answer is 2 plus or minus 3 imaginaries times the square root of 13 over 11. Sandra, let's move number 1. Add 4 to the 3, add n to the n. So there's nothing with the 5n squared, so 5n squared minus 10n's plus a 7 is 0. So Jess, what's your A, what's your B, what's your C? A is 5. Negative 10 is B. 7 is C. So Curtis, plug them in. If you got A is 5, B is negative 10, C is 7, X equals negative B. X equals negative B plus or minus square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So let's plug them in. X equals what? X equals negative B. X equals negative 10 is B, but it's negative 10. So it's negative 10 plus or minus the square root of B. B is negative 10, but you got to put in parentheses, squared, minus 4 times A times C, all divided by 2 times A. Because if you don't put this in parentheses, your calculator is going to give you the wrong answer. Okay, now Curtis, punch this out. What is, type in 100 minus 4 times 5 times 7? This is negative 40. Okay, negative 40. So Jesse, if you ever have a negative into the square root, that means it's imaginary. Because if I ask you what number times itself is a negative 4, no number times itself is going to be a negative 4. A negative 2 times a positive 2 is a negative 4. So if you ever take the square root of a negative, it's imaginary. So you do the math the exact same. Look, all you do right here is going to be 10 plus, take the negative out, and that means it's imaginary. Square root of 40 over 10. And if you punch in 40 and factor it, what's 40 factored? So it's prime factors. Isn't it 2 cubed times 5? So 2 cubed times 5, what comes out, what stays in? One 2 comes out. This should change to 2 square roots of 10. 1 2 stays in, and a 2 times a 5 on the inside is going to be 10. So now you got 10 plus or minus 2 imaginaries times the square root of 10, all divided by 10. Justin, you're busy. This number, this number, this number are all even, so you got to simplify them. Your final answer if you divide them all by 2, you're going to get 5 plus or minus 1i squared of 10 divided by 5. Okay, this one plus 3 plus 3, so you got 7m squared minus 2m plus 7. So now A is going to give you 7. B is going to give you minus 2. C is going to give you 7. Isaac, check them. This is, what page is this? Page 11? So page 11, you should have this. X equals 2 plus or minus square root of a negative 2 squared, which is 4, minus 4 times 7. What's 4 minus 4 times 7 times 7? All over 2 times A. So this is going to change to a negative 296? 192? You sure? All over 14? Okay, the negative just means it's going to be imaginary. So I'm going to take that imaginary out. So it's going to be 2 plus or minus imaginary square root of 192 all over 14. And what's 192 factored to its prime factors? Curtis, what's 192 factored? So you're going to change 192 for 2 to the 6th times 3? So how many 2's come out? 3 2's come out, so it should be 2 cubed times 3 stays in. 2 cubed is 8, so we got 2 plus or minus 8i. On the inside you just have 3, underneath you got 14. Now you need to simplify 2, 8, and 14. They're all even, so divide them all by 2. Is your final answer 1 plus or minus 4i times the square root of 3 over 7? Miranda, did you get this? 1 plus or minus 4i times square root of 3 over 7? Page 11. Okay, page 12 is the exact same problem as page 9, so we're going to skip this one. Now, Carlos, let me show you a trick on this. On page 13, we on page 13? If I move this over, plus 6x plus 6x, we got x squared plus 4x minus 5 is 0. Okay, now Carlos, if a is ever 1, you want to try and factor it first. Does there exist two integers that will multiply and give you a negative 5 but will add and give you a 4? 5 and a 1, are they both positive, both negative? You got one of each. Which one's negative? The 1. Because 5 times negative 1 gives you negative 5, but 5 out of negative 1 is 4. So look at this. If you can factor it, look how easy this is. It's going to be x plus 5 times x minus 1 is 0. So what does x have to be? It's got to be a negative 5 or 1. Because you got to get 0. So if I replace x with the negative 5, what's the negative 5 plus 5? And what's 1 minus 1? This next one I think is going to be the same way. If you minus p squared or add 32 minus p squared, okay, there's nothing to add 32 to on the left side. So I'm going to have p squared plus a 12p plus the 32's. So Tristan, because this starts with the 1, I'm going to try and factor it. Does there exist two integers that will times and give you 32 but will add and give you 12? 4 and 8. So then it's going to be p plus 4 times p plus 8, and your answer is 0. So p's got to be a negative 4 or a negative 8. So this way is actually way faster than using the quadratic formula. But you can only use it when a is 1, and you can find two numbers to multiply, give you 32, add and give you 12. Sergio, last page. Let's go backwards. If I give you the solutions, can you give me the equation? So Sergio, we're going to go look just like here. These are the solutions. What was the step right before this? And then what was the step before this? So let's go backwards. If your answers are 5 and negative 7, what's the step before that look like? X minus, so copy this down, x minus 5 and x plus 7 equals 0. Now, let's distribute and figure out what equation that is. What's x times x? That's going to be x squared. What's x times 7? What's negative 5 times x? And then the last is a negative 5 times 7. So negative 35. And combine your like terms. So your final equation, you should end up with x squared plus 2x minus 35 is 0. So this is the equation that gives you these two solutions. So if I give you the solutions, it's not too bad to work backwards and find the equation. So now go ahead and see if you can figure out the remaining 5. Okay, Bailey, if your answer is 7, look, you got 2 answers because there's one on each side of the vertex. If you got only one answer, where's your answer? Your answer is at the vertex. If there's only one dot, that is at the vertex. Jesse, if you only have one answer, it's going to be the exact same way as all these others. Look, it's going to be x minus 7. X minus 7. You got to write it twice though, because that means this answer would be a 7 and this answer would be a 7. So your answer is 7 and 7. But since it's the same thing, you just write it once. Alex, let's distribute this forward. What's x minus 7 times x minus 7? What's x times x? X times x. Good job. What's x times a minus 7? Minus 7x. What's minus 7 times x? Minus 7x. What's minus 7 times minus 7? Plus 49. Combine your like terms. What's a minus 7x and a minus 7x? X squared minus 14x plus 49 is 0. Jesse, what's going to give you 2 imaginaries and negative 2 imaginaries? What's going to give you 2 imaginaries, negative 2 imaginaries? Preston, what's going to give you 2 imaginaries, negative 2 imaginaries? X squared is negative 4. That'll do it. If you square root this, you're going to square root this. You'll get x equals plus or minus square root of a negative 4. Square root of a negative 4 is 2 imaginaries. So you have plus or minus 2 imaginaries. What about this one? What about 3 imaginaries, negative 3 imaginaries? Look, you can do these the exact same way we did this guy right here. You can do x minus 3 imaginaries times x plus 3 imaginaries. What's x times x? What's x times 3 imaginaries? 3 imaginaries x. What's a minus 3 imaginaries times x? What's a minus 3i times 3i? A negative 9i squared. What's I times I? Negative 1. So what's a negative 1 times a negative 9? A positive 9. What's 3ix minus 3ix? That's 0. So you got x squared and a positive 9 equals 0. And that's the same thing as x squared equals a negative 9. What number times itself is a negative 9? 3i or a negative 3i. What about 6 and a minus 4? If your answers are 6 and a minus 4. X minus 6. X plus 4. So it's got to be x squared plus 4x. Miranda, you gotta go back. Minus 6 times x is minus 6x. Minus 6 times 4. Add up your x's. You should have x squared minus 2x minus 24.
That's what I said. That's what I was helping him with.
Go. And this 0 is going to be just like the 7. So it's going to be x plus a 0 and x plus a 0.